Imagine being killed by your best friend a few months after your wedding, all because of greed and selfishness. This story is painful and hurtful, and how this man was killed by the best man at his wedding will shock you and make you wonder, is anyone in this world worth trusting? Hassan Shehu, who is also known as Hassan Wanka, was a gold dealer at Kure Market in Minna, Niger State. He sold and bought gold for a living, and he had a shop in the Kure Market there where there were other gold dealers also. Usually, to buy or sell gold, you would have to come to the Kure Market. It's a lot safer and more assuring, both for the customers and the dealers. However, on the 12th of April 2022, Hassan got a phone call from his best friend, 25-year-old Bashir Ibrahim. In the call, Bashir told Hassan of a man who wanted to sell a certain pound of gold for 5 million naira, and he urged Hassan to rush the deal. This seemed like a good deal, but Hassan didn't have 5 million naira. He told Bashir that he only had 3.5 million naira. Now, some sources said Hassan agreed that to make up for the 5 million naira, he was going to add his vehicle, a Peugeot, a red Peugeot. While other sources said that he most likely talked the 5 million naira down to 3.5 million naira. After Hassan stated his offer, Bashir told him that he would get back to him, that he needed to convince the dealer to agree to Hassan's offer, citing the fact that it's because they were friends. That is to say, Bashir told Hassan, "Don't worry, I'll call you back. Let me tell this dealer to agree to your offer, because you're my friend, and I want you to get this gold, and I want you to take this deal. It will be good for you, and that is all there is." Obviously, Hassan thought this was a selfless act. Of course, maybe Bashir was going to get his cut, but in Hassan's mind, he most likely felt Bashir was doing him a favor. Bashir was on his side. Little did he know that Bashir had some tricks up his sleeves. After Bashir ended the call under the pretext of convincing the seller to agree to Hassan's offer, Bashir then called Hassan back a few moments later, urging him to come down to a particular address that the seller had agreed to his offer. Now, it's unclear what the offer was, but the initial deal was 5 million naira. However, Hassan may have talked it down to 3.5 million naira, or may have included his vehicle along to make up for the 5 million naira. But after Bashir convinced him that the seller had agreed to his offer, Hassan began making the necessary preparations for this new deal. Like I've said before, this was unusual. Even for Hassan, it was not the norm. If someone wanted to sell gold or buy gold, they would have to come to the market there at the shop. It was the safest way to do these kinds of business. So at this point, Hassan had probably withdrawn about 3.5 million naira cash, and he had put them in his red Peugeot and was already prepared to go to the address that Bashir had asked him to come to. In as much as this was not the usual way of doing business, Hassan felt, since this was his best friend, since this was the guy he had known all his life, what is the worst that could happen? He most likely wasn't thinking that anything could have gone wrong. This was Bashir, his best friend, and some sources even said they called themselves brothers. However, what was about to happen next felt so much like a scene from a mystery movie. One of those episodes of How to Get Away with Murder, if I may say. Except things did not exactly go as planned for these bastards. They probably would have gotten away with it, but for the last minute decision that Hassan made, everything changed. Hassan got into his red Peugeot with 3.5 million naira cash in the back seat. He left his shop in the hands of his younger brother, Abba Shehu. Basically telling Abba that he would be back soon and that he won't take long. As he was about to drive off, it was said that Hassan had a quick thought and instantly urged Abba to join in the car, which Abba did. It's unclear if they locked up the shop or if someone else was there to look after it for them. But it was said Abba then joined Hassan in the Peugeot as they both set to leave for the address Bashir had asked them to meet him. Now, at this moment, it's unclear what Hassan felt. Maybe he probably sensed that something might probably also go wrong. Because apparently what he did when they got to the address, it's almost as if Hassan had the intuition that there could probably be something off with this deal, despite the fact that it was his best friend who had assured him that the deal was legit. When Hassan and Abba got to the address, it was an apartment building. Hassan came down from the vehicle but urged his brother Abba to remain inside of it with the windows up. He left the 3.5 million naira still in the vehicle, and alone by himself he went into the building to see his best friend and the man who wanted to sell the gold. The plan would have been that Hassan wanted to see the gold for himself, to see if it's worth buying it for the 3.5 million naira along with his vehicle, or if it's something that he was going to change his mind over. Maybe that was why he went alone without the money. And also maybe that was why he probably didn't tell the other people that he came with somebody. If for some reason he thought that the gold was worth the money, he would most likely call his brother Abba to come into the building with the cash and probably the car keys, I guess. But then Abba, who was in the vehicle, had to wait for his brother to call him or give him the sign to come into the building with the money. However, Abba would wait for eternity because nearly an hour went by and Abba did not see his brother, nor did he get a call from him. Eventually, Abba would tire off and begin to dial Hassan's number, wondering if he should come in or wondering why it's taking so long for him to come out. Dialing his brother's number, Hassan wasn't taking his calls. Eventually, Abba got out from the vehicle and walked into the building, opened the door, only to see 3 men dragging the lifeless, bleeding body of his brother into a toilet. Apparently, these 3 men weren't expecting any other guests. They probably thought Hassan came by himself. Upon seeing another person and knowing that that was the brother of Hassan, they knew their cover had been blown up. They would have to kill him too, because now he had seen what they had done and he would most likely expose them to the public or to the police. So obviously they had to go after him, but it was said that Abba took to his heels and began to run. He ran for his life. Seeing that the men were unable to catch Abba, they returned back to the apartment, abandoned Hassan's body there, ransacked his pockets, took his phones, about 2 of his mobile phones, took the car keys, and then they entered into his Peugeot where the money was and drove off in the bid to escape, because now they knew what they had done would certainly go back to the public. They didn't even try to hide Hassan's body anymore because everything was now in the open. Someone had seen them, just a matter of time for the news or the story of what they had done to be everywhere. It was around 5 p.m. in the evening on the 12th of April that the police got a call from concerned citizen that a dead body had been seen in an apartment in the address or area that Bashir had called Hassan to. When the police came to the address, they saw Hassan's body. At the time, they really did not know who he was. So after evacuating his body, the police began doing their research. They began asking questions around. It didn't take long before they found Abba, who was in the hospital at the time. As it was said, Abba had been traumatized by the incident, and it was said that he most likely ran to a point he passed out and was rushed to the hospital. So eventually the police would meet Abba, who would now then explain to the police how everything turned out, how his brother was called by his best friend to come and purchase gold at the apartment that he was killed. The police would ask him if he saw the 3 men who killed his brother, and he said he was able to identify only 2 of them. Abba identified one of the men to be Bashir Ibrahim, his brother's best friend. And of course, he was able to recognize Bashir because he was the best man at his wedding and it was his brother's closest friend. So that wouldn't be something difficult for him to identify. The second person he was able to identify as Aliyu Ibrahim, Bashir's younger brother. However, Abba could not identify the 3rd man because he hadn't seen him before and he clearly didn't see his face all the way. And so with that information, the police knew who they were looking for, Bashir and his younger brother Ali. Hopefully, if they find Bashir and the younger brother, they will be able to find the 3rd person and definitely bring all of them to book. It will take 3 days, 16th of April 2022, for the police to find Hassan's vehicle in a bush along Zungeri Road, Mina. After the vehicle was assessed for clues or evidence or probably damages, it was then towed to the police station. So at this point, what was left was looking for the killers and maybe the money they had stolen from the vehicle. The search would continue. At this time, the story was everywhere. People had heard about it. People had seen the picture of Hassan and that of his best man Bashir. So basically, people knew who they were looking for and what the person had done. Invariably, it was just a matter of time to see how far Bashir and his younger brother Aliyu could run. Then again, with that much money that they stole, I would guess, or I would think, that they could have run farther than they did. Because a week later, after this whole incident, the police got a tip on the 19th of April 2022 regarding the whereabouts of Bashir and his younger brother Aliyu. The anonymous caller told the police that he had spotted the duo at a hotel along Eastern Bypass in Minna. So clearly these two criminals were still in the same state that they had committed the crime. I would think with the money that they stole, they would have at least gone to Abuja or somewhere else, maybe Kebbi State or Kano. How can you be a criminal like that and still be stupid to remain in the same vicinity that you committed a crime in? Were they thinking that no one would recognize them? Because I don't understand. They had enough time to get away. They had enough time, enough money. They even had a vehicle to run away, but they still chose to remain in Minna there. Well, I guess their stupidity happened for the best, because immediately the police got the tip, they burst into that hotel, and instantly Bashir and his younger brother Aliyu were arrested. They were taken to police custody and questioned regarding the death that they had been accused of. And that was how they confessed. They didn't even deny it. Then the police asked them what happened, why they did what they did, and basically how they killed Hassan. And of course, they gave their confession, which in my opinion, I think is a little dicey, but maybe you would be the judge of it. Bashir said that they didn't mean to kill Hassan. They only wanted to hold him down and steal the money and the vehicle. But then they killed him. So why did they kill him? According to their confession, they had planned with a man called Suleiman Mahmoud to rob Hassan of his money and vehicle. Suleiman was the third person, the man who was supposed to be the gold dealer. He was the person that Hassan was coming to buy gold from. So this was the man that Bashir and Aliyu had planned with to steal from Hassan. So when Hassan walked into the apartment, he saw the man, Suleiman Mahmoud. And it was said it did not take long while they were having a conversation between Hassan and Suleiman. They were having a conversation. Soon enough, Suleiman began holding Hassan, trying to pin him down, trying to overpower him. And it was said that Hassan began to fight back because he started feeling off. It did not make sense that this man he had come to buy gold from is suddenly attacking him. As Hassan and Suleiman were fighting each other, it was said Bashir and the younger brother Aliyu joined Suleiman to hold Hassan down. Maybe they thought the three of them would be able to pin him down, tie him up, and steal everything he had. But it was said that Hassan put up a fight, making it difficult for these three men to hold him down. Now, this is according to Bashir and Ali's confession. Somewhere along the line of fighting back and forth, it was said, according to them, that Hassan held Suleiman's neck and most likely wanted to strangle him because, it's a fight. Maybe it was this kind of fight where you just have to hold one person of all the people in the group and just target all your anger on that person. So according to them, in the process of Hassan fighting off Suleiman, Aliyu, the younger brother of Bashir, brought out a knife and stabbed Hassan, once on the neck and the other one on the chest. That eventually got his heart, which apparently killed him. And then, seeing that Hassan was bleeding to his death and most likely dying, they knew that they had to hide his body. That it was in the process of hiding his body that his younger brother, Abba, walked into them. So this was the story, or this was how Bashir and Aliyu made the story. I mean, it's a good thing that they did not blame it on the third person, because usually I would think if there was a third person and the third person hadn't been caught, they would most likely accuse the person of being the one who killed the victim. But Bashir and Aliyu were the only two people caught at the time. Even as at the time of making this video, Bashir and Aliyu are the only two persons still in custody for the death of Hassan. But within themselves, they had already confessed that the killer was Ali, and Aliyu took full responsibility for it. He admitted to being the one who did the stabbing, and so it's unclear what that means, if that would make the police less motivated in looking for the third person, because at this point it seemed they had found the killer. It was now time to find the money and ask what they had done with the money and ask for the other properties they had stolen from Hassan. This was when the police discovered that Hassan's mobile phone had been sold to a stranger for 3,000 naira, which was insane because this is not a Torchlight phone. This is most likely an Android phone or an iPhone mobile phone, because when you look at some of Hassan's pictures You could tell that the pictures were taken by a very high-ended phone. Most likely an iPhone, if you ask me, or at least a Samsung. So, who buys a Samsung or an iPhone for 3,000 naira? Who does? When the police learned that Aliyu and Bashir had sold Hassan's mobile phones for 3,000 naira to a stranger, they knew they had to find that stranger and lock him up. And it did not take long before they found the person that they had sold the phone to for that less price. Clearly, he was not among the killing, he was not among the murder or robbery, but he was in possession of a stolen phone. And I think that's the crime itself. I mean, if you had to buy a phone for 3,000 naira, you must have known it was a stolen phone. There is no way this guy did not know that the phone he was buying was stolen. So, I don't feel bad for him. I feel he deserves to be paraded amongst these killers because he knew what he was signing up for. He knew what he was doing. He knew what the phone was when he was paying 3,000 naira for it. If for some reason he paid a high price for the phone, I mean, I'm not saying that would excuse the crime. It's still a stolen phone, but I would feel bad that he might have been tricked. You know, that is if he paid like a full price for it. If he probably paid a reasonable amount or something close to the actual worth of that phone. If this man had paid that much money to buy that phone, I would feel bad for him for being arrested and paraded among the criminals. But the fact that he paid 3,000 naira for such a high-end phone, he must be joking. He must be really stupid to think that we would feel bad for him if he said he did not know that the phone was a stolen phone. If you had to pay that less for a mobile phone, you knew what you were doing. You knew that you were committing a crime and you committed the crime regardless. And I don't feel bad for him. I don't feel pity for him. I should have, but I don't. I know he did not kill Hassan, nor did he partake in the whole plans to rob him. But for you to buy a phone for that less, a good phone for 3,000 naira, you must be a thief yourself. You must be a criminal yourself, and maybe he deserves to be there. You guys let me know what you think. Do you think this guy, in as much as he also committed a crime for being in possession of a stolen good, for being in possession of a stolen phone, do you still think that it's fair that he's being paraded among the actual killers? Or do you think he alone should be separated for his crime as it's not in the same range? Because for me, he should be locked up in the same prison as all the murderers and killers in the world for buying a high-ended phone for 3,000 naira. I think he's as guilty as a serial killer and he should be locked up with all the rest of them. How do you buy a phone for 3,000 naira? If someone sold me an iPhone for 3,000 naira, I would run for my life. I would question the source of that iPhone. I would even call the police because it's absurd. So guys, as at the time of making this video, Suleiman Mahmood had not been caught or arrested. Maybe he's the one who did the smart thing by running out of the state. Eventually the law will catch up with him, that I'm sure of, because I don't know how far he can run. With time, he's going to be caught. That's something for a fact. But the good thing is the person who directly killed Hassan, Aliyu, has been caught, and that will serve its purpose for now. Hopefully till the police do their job to find the third person ASAP. Maybe before I upload this video, the person must have been found. Hopefully. I will have to put it in the tag or in the description below. This is a sad story of how Hassan Wanka or Hassan Shehu was killed by his best man and best friend, Bashir Ibrahim. Even though it was Bashir's younger brother that did the killing, I still think Bashir is very much as guilty as the person who did the stabbing. But this is my question, and this is where I'm having a slight issue. And this is where I feel that maybe Bashir and Aliyu might be lying, or more like Bashir himself might be lying. He might be really tricky. He might have known that this... I feel that Bashir is even the main person here. If his younger brother had to come in with a knife to kill his best friend, Bashir most likely put that in his head. And now Bashir is making the younger boy take the fall for it. This Bashir strikes me as someone who is very manipulative. Clearly, he won't be able to most likely have the mind to do the stabbing, and so he made his younger brother come in with a knife and encouraged him to most likely do what he did if anything goes wrong. Clearly, they would have a backup plan. Clearly, they know that Hassan is not a statue. He would definitely fight back. So, I'm sure in all their plans, they had a backup for what would happen if Hassan starts to fight back or shout for help or destroy things. I think that backup plan was Aliyu. Bashir's backup plan was his younger brother, and I'm sure he had encouraged him to come with a knife in case things did not go as they planned. If for some reason they actually did plan to only tie him up and rob him, if that was the actual plan, definitely killing Hassan Wanka was their backup plan. So when Bashir and Aliyu said that they did not mean to kill him, I don't agree. They meant to kill him. They knew they were going to kill him. Even if they had succeeded in tying him up and keeping him at the corner, they would still eventually kill him, because there is no way that Bashir would enjoy the money and the car or whatever he was going to steal from Hassan with a clear mind, knowing that Hassan was still alive. That is something that doesn't make sense to me. If Bashir wanted to rob Hassan and then claim that he did not want to kill him, how was he going to spend all that money? How was he going to enjoy the money? Was he going to run out of Mina? Because clearly, even after he killed Hassan, he still did not run out of the state. So this guy did not even have plans of leaving the state. He wanted to steal the money from Hassan and enjoy it right there in Niger State without running. And if he was going to enjoy his money in his homeland, in his town, clearly the person he's stealing it from should not be alive, because obviously he won't enjoy it. Which is why I feel that Bashir knew very well that he was going to kill Hassan. He most likely did not want Hassan to die by his hands, and that was why he involved his younger brother and most likely encouraged him to do the killing, putting it in his head. And now that their cover has blown, obviously the brother will take the fall. In my heart of hearts, in my mind of mind, I feel that Bashir Ibrahim was the mastermind of all of this. I feel that he knew what he was doing, and he definitely knew that his end game was to kill Hassan and take his money and vehicle. But thankfully, things did not go as they planned. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like this video, share your thoughts, share with your friends, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already subscribed. You can also turn on the bell button so whenever there is a new video, you will be the first to get notified. And also don't forget to comment which country you're watching this video from. Let me know in the comment below. Thank you guys for watching, and thank you guys for subscribing. See you next time.